Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing fantastic and that you're all having an absolutely incredible day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Got a pretty mixed news day today with this one. Crypto adoption is on the rise in Turkey, a country in the throes of incredibly high inflation. According to a research study conducted by KuCoin, that is Kucoin, over the last year and a half, adoption has increased from 40 to 52% of the Turkish population. We are beginning to get a lot of news like this. I've mentioned before, I think, of course, if you don't look into it or know too much about it, it doesn't really do a lot to you. Where I've mentioned that you, are quite privileged in that we are going through inflation. We may be suffering or have the issue of a 4, 5, 6, 7% inflation rate. There are still places on this planet that are going through 55%, 78%, 120%. And Turkey is one of those places. They have been, if you look at any type of economic news and or documentaries, they've been in a very precarious position over the course of the while. It hasn't even just been a couple of years, where a lot of the economic finance people, ministers within their country, seemingly have no idea how to deal with finance. And they've been raising interest rates and then trying to lower them or making the interest rates even higher, printing more money, and no one knows exactly why their economic policies are as such. So if you've ever had the chance to, like I told you all before, I swim in financial documentaries. It's all I watch all the time. And there are quite a few that you can also find yourself that show what's currently the last 2 years been happening in Turkey. It has become a bit of a haven, if you will, for people looking to take holiday, to take vacations. And the interesting part is that maybe it's changed in the last week, but you are able to stay at a 5-star resort for a week or 2 weeks for roughly around the equivalent of $25 or $30 a night. I'm telling you, you can find the documentaries. And a lot of people from very wealthy nations have begun to go to Turkey to basically stay for long term. This is, of course, displacing a large amount of people who live in normal apartments that are now being used as Airbnbs. There are people in the documentaries. There was one guy saying, yeah, my rent was like $280 per month. That is the equivalent of $280. He was like, yeah, I got a letter that is now $1,600. And he's like, when I go to the store, a tomato used to cost around 50 cents. He's like, now they're $7.25. He's like, I don't make that much money. My friends don't make that much money. How are we supposed to be doing anything? And this is part of a large portion of the problem that's currently plaguing a lot of countries around the world. So, we, once again, may be going through an issue where inflation is lightly high, or we see that prices have marginally changed within a supermarket, but other places around the world, I think they also mentioned a couple of other countries as well, but Turkey, we're seeing a massive amount of increase in the amount of people who are buying up cryptocurrencies. This goes for those of you who were here. This was 2 or 3 videos ago, maybe. We were talking about the actual adoption rate of cryptocurrencies and how cryptocurrencies will do just fine, because it appears as if the countries that actually are going through hard economic times, these are the ones who are thankfully accumulating large amounts of cryptocurrencies, because I would rather normal people accumulate Bitcoin as opposed to wealthy billionaires around the world. It should be spread across humanity and not just in the hands of a very few people. KuCoin, the 5th largest crypto exchange in the world, collected this data based on the survey responses of 500 people, which they analyzed in their latest Understanding Crypto Users report. Per our findings in Turkey and other previous country reports, for Turkey, the growing number and percentage of crypto investors indicate an increasing interest and acceptance of crypto as a hedge against inflation. especially with the Turkish lira losing over 50% of its value against the US dollar. They also talk about Brazil and Nigeria being places as well that where they've seen a huge uptick in the amount of people who are investing in cryptocurrencies. It's very fascinating. It goes into this idea that I was always talking about. When prices are low, a lot of people don't pay attention to things. And then when prices end up going higher, we see people more, and I use this term lightly, in the West, who end up like then accumulating when prices end up rising really high. But it's the other countries that end up benefiting from buying crypto when the prices are low, because a lot of countries are not going to be changing their economic policies anytime soon. I'm not sure if you've been watching the news. There are a number of countries on the planet right now that are undergoing what you would call strife because of the conditions that they're going through, and therefore people are not too happy. Yeah, crypto adoption continues to increase. I think there's thousands of new addresses opened for Bitcoin every single day. It is expected that we will hit, I think, 1 billion Bitcoin users is expected, I think, not this halving, but the next halving. So 2028, everything seems completely possible. The world is in a very weird spot right now economically. And this kind of leads me to believe that we are going to see cryptocurrency continue to succeed, because even when we have central bank digital currencies, governments are not going to be changing their economic positions. And I think people will continue to move to, and even more so, like be forced into finding a more decentralized solution to actually protect their money. That's the crypto adoption continues around the world news. And yeah, let's move on. Next up why not? Lufthansa and Polygon are apparently working together, it seems. According to the Lufthansa Innovation Hub in a statement on the Polygon website, passengers on the German carrier will soon be able to gamify their flight experience. The carrier will allow travelers to collect NFTs, which can then be used for rewards like lounge access and also for accumulating miles. Lufthansa will use the Polygon blockchain, a proof-of-stake network known for its speed and low fees. According to the Lufthansa Innovation Hub, the entire procedure will be available on the UpTrip smartphone application, because why not? Kristen Weimar, Director of New Business Lufthansa Innovation Hub, said Web3 is in an early stage of development. Curiosity is high, but we also encounter questions and hesitation, which is where UpTrip hits a nerve. We make it possible for people to access this new technology. Users will be able to connect their crypto wallet to the app to mint and transfer NFTs. According to Lufthansa, passengers need to collect specific NFTs to unlock rewards such as airport lounge access, flight upgrades, or status and award miles. Hundreds of cities, New York, Singapore, Lisbon, many more will be available. There's also a flight from the North Pole on New Year's Eve. I guess that's a perk as well. They also have an MVP, minimum viable product, and apparently they've had 20,000 people sign up and more than 200,000 NFTs have been created so far. Weird. I wonder about I don't really know. So I myself am not a flyer. I do not care for flying. It is like my least favorite thing in the entire world. I remember we heard like a couple of years ago that there were a couple of airlines who were trying to make NFTs for like flight tickets. And that was also a thing for like sports tickets as well. So if you were going to a baseball game, some companies were trying to create like NFTs. So like you could literally have them forever and they wouldn't degrade and the paper wouldn't turn yellow and all this other kind of stuff. But sure, not the news that I thought we were going to get for the day, but especially not Lufthansa and Polygon. Polygon is kind of the the go-to corporation chain. We've spoken about that before. There are a number of chains that I believe, wink, were created by corporations and for the sake of being used by corporations. And this is why I think we see them being used so much. And Polygon is up on that ladder as well. So cool. Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed as well. Maybe I'll start throwing more into the news every now and again. The NFT news is like rapidly making a reappearance within this space. There's a lot of news about companies who are getting back into it. There was something like a day or two ago that Mr. Beast is also working with making NFTs. It's a lot of NFT news that's repopping back up. I assume it's because the energy is flowing back into the market as far as the anticipation of where the bull market will move us in prices. And therefore, I told you all before, when the stock markets recover and crypto market recovers, and then we're also going to have the NFT market recover as well. So maybe that's why there's an uptick in this type of news. That's the Lufthansa NFT Polygon news. And yeah, let's move on. Also sure, why not, in relatively popular news, the Ripple legal team has pushed back against the SEC's request to seek an interlocutory appeal in their ongoing legal fight, arguing that the regulator hasn't satisfied the requirements to file an appeal. Ripple has filed in opposition to the US SEC's request to appeal the ruling that the San Francisco-based blockchain firm didn't break security laws in making XRP available to retail traders by putting it on exchanges. And I don't even think that sentence is completely correct. From the news that we've been getting over the course of the last week, Ripple won a portion of the lawsuit. The SEC said that they were sad, they said those were we're sad that this was the ruling. And then they said they were going to file an appeal. The appeal being is that apparently they can't directly appeal what the judge said, which was that the selling of XRP did not constitute an unregistered security by the company Ripple at the time of sales. But I think the SEC is now trying to go back against them for, is it programmatic sales? I think it has something to do with them selling XRP to certain companies at a certain time, and it's not clear, at least to me, I haven't looked through the 800-page documents, if that means like them, the coin to crypto exchanges or to investment funds or hedge funds. I'm not really sure exactly what it is. And now that the SEC is refiling for an appeal, the company Ripple is now filing an opposition to them filing an appeal. Everyone got it? Yeah, me neither. I know it's quite confusing. There's just a lot going on with this entire thing. I wish, once again, that regulators actually properly regulated and gave people a peace of mind when it came to investing in things, as opposed to constantly trying to terrify people within the cryptocurrency market and or trying to control the market and or manipulating the market price-wise the way that the SEC has done. So this feels like this portion of the SEC versus Ripple will take probably a number of years unless there's another judge working on this and they're able to, wrap it up very, very quick. The other part that is the best, I guess, is that we no longer have to actually worry about the idea of XRP being a security. And the idea that Ripple won that portion of the case sets a gigantic precedence for every other altcoin that's also out there, which I think a lot of people aren't really talking about as much. The idea is, once again, if you can match the metrics that Ripple had or XRP has during the course of the lawsuit, and simply the judge says, no, it did not constitute as X, Y, and Z, and every coin has done or does the exact same thing, they're probably technically in the clear because they can't bring it to a judge because there's already been a ruling in that case as far as this is a coin, that's another coin. But now they're trying to basically get the company in trouble to say that they shouldn't have sold or they should have gone to the SEC first. These people are crazy. I can't figure out any other word. I don't have it in this video, but there's a huge amount of extra backlash. We've been seeing a lot already against the SEC, but there's been a lot more quite recently from a number of companies who were like, what are they doing? Like all the SEC has really accomplished in the last 3 years is just making tons of other companies leave the United States, lower the amount of people who the amount of U.S. citizens that they could have been hiring and or giving jobs. And these companies have simply moved overseas. They've lowered or stopped their U.S. operations. Of course, it's always about money. The SEC is trying to protect someone behind the scenes who is probably paying them off in some sort of way. And it's not even... The idea of saying allegedly is because we don't know. Can you give me a good reason why the SEC over the course of the last 13 years has not given proper cryptocurrency regulations to their citizens? Other than money behind the scenes? What causes Hong Kong to say they're going to give crypto regulations and then they do it within 6 months? Why is the world's largest economy, the largest regulator within the world's largest economy, still not giving proper cryptocurrency regulations, financial regulations? It's always about money. They're either being told to do it or they're doing it because someone else told them. If both of those sentences sounded the same, it's because they're the exact same. It's really weird. All of it's incredibly odd, and they're still going after multiple other cryptocurrency companies as well. It's like a really weird, desperate, like hanging on, trying to make sure that they remain relevant in some sort of way. I'm certain we are going to look back at this in 10 years and like almost be like a bit embarrassed for them. Have you ever seen, last point and then we'll move on. The person who was president of the US of A back in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know who I'm talking about. They recently gave an interview about how basically find it. It's a real interview. How everything that they did over the course of their presidency was basically because they I won't use the term revenge, but they basically wanted to exert as much of their power as possible because they knew that they had that power. And upon hearing that they were going to lose that power, they kind of began to act insane and lash out. And in the interview, he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we knew at the time it was wrong. And it's like, you knew that you were doing terrible things and you simply continued to do them because you had the power to do so. That's where I think the SEC currently is. But as cryptocurrencies continue to get larger and more robust, find that interview. It's very, very interesting. Like they also talk about his paintings, which apparently was like a huge topic of focus. Apparently he paints now. He like paints his toes when he's taking a bath. It's like, did we need to know that? Like, why would I anyway? As the world continues to expand, as cryptocurrencies make their way around 200 countries around the world, I think in the future, like, we're going to look back at all this and just be really embarrassed at the SEC as to what they did and the money that they could have allowed to flow into the United States is now taking root in Dubai, in Europe, in parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Just a little weird and sad. That's Ripple is trying to fight back against the SEC's. Who knows how long this is going to last, but this one actually doesn't apply to us at all. News. Okie dokie. Let's move on. In what I would like to call incredibly dystopian news, Matter Labs' CEO Alex Glukowski has proposed a hierarchical court system within the Ethereum network, mirroring real-world structures. In a post on Twitter, Glukowski envisions, and I quote, an Ethereum Supreme Court that would function similarly to the U.S. Supreme Court, serving as the ultimate adjudicator for disputes arising from smart contract issues. It would negate the necessity of involving traditional legal avenues or lawyers. Let me tell you now, I know there's at least a few people who are incredibly confused. Let me explain something to you. For those of you who don't know, human beings are corrupt. Did everyone get that? Yes, we have, and this is simply a matter of fact. This is not a, well, some people are nice. No. I like history a lot. I don't watch thousands of history documentaries as much as I do financial documentaries. But I like looking back at where humans were and where we currently are now. The only difference between us right now and humans from 3,000 years ago is that we have the internet, we have computers, we have running water, and we have smartphones. Everything else is exactly the same. We are still vindictive, we're still crazy, we still do terrible things. That's just how humanity is and how it probably will always be unless something ends up changing and we end up evolving in some sort of other way. For those of you who don't know or have never looked into many different Supreme Courts around the world, not just the US's, there has always been a high fraction of corruption from within. And a lot of times, for some reason, every single country does this. When people are in power and they misuse said power, people always look the other way until said person is out of power, out of office, and then everyone goes, oh yeah, over the last couple of years, we found all of these things. If you take a look back through history, you can Google it, documentary it, any way you want to absorb the information, you can find out exactly what I'm talking about. We have had a number of high-profile allegations recently, even about the U.S. Supreme Court, as far as that apparently, allegedly, a number of rulings have recently taken place, what have you, over the course of the last decade plus, that involve apparently people allegedly making rulings because they were given a free trip on a yacht. They were allowed to stay at a castle. They were given maybe something that wasn't monetary behind the scenes in exchange for going a little bit more lenient or leaning the other way. It's just how humans are. The idea of the cryptocurrency space, the idea of blockchain, my friends, is decentralization. When I say decentralization, I don't mean a node in New York, a node in Vancouver, a node in Sao Paulo, and a node in Johannesburg. I mean being able to, on the network, to run a node and a validator at any point in time whenever you want to. This was one of the major ideas a number of years ago when it came to cryptocurrency phones. You would have a cryptocurrency phone, it would have multiple nodes inside of it, and you would be able to validate all of these blockchains and transactions whenever you wanted, and you would also get paid for it. That was a very, that was a thing years and years ago when it came to the idea of cryptocurrency blockchain phones. For decentralization to work and for fairness to work in this world, we need to be able to vote on things. That's how democracy works. That should not be controversial. That should just be completely like the actual definition of it. The way that democracy works the best is when you have a large number of people who are able to say yay or nay in either direction that they choose at any given time. If there is a network upgrade happening on Bitcoin, you've seen this before, the network is able to vote on it. There are tens and thousands, and I would like it to be hundreds of thousands one day, of people who are on the network who are able to digitally raise their hand and say, I like this proposal. And when you get over 75% of people voting from the tens of thousands of people, you have democracy at work on the blockchain. They've chosen, yes, Bitcoin's going to have this upgrade. It is going to happen. If you have a Supreme Court type system on a blockchain, typically anywhere major world courts tend to have between 7, 9, and or 11 people. It's always an odd number, so it swings in one way. And someone has a dispute on the blockchain, and you go, well, we don't want to involve traditional people, so let's do it within the cryptocurrency space. One of two things is going to happen. You are going to have a system that works absolutely perfectly, where there's no corruption, there's no crime, there are no problems, and people will look through the actual information and they'll go, well, this seems completely logical and correct, and we should definitely vote in this direction. The person gets the greatest outcome that they could have had because they were proven correct and were correct the entire time. I hope that some of you are chuckling, because that's not the planet that we live on. After having been on this planet for a couple of decades now, and I'm sure many of you have as well, you know that that's not how anything ends up working, because the United States of America would have already had a physical Bitcoin ETF and proper cryptocurrency regulation. What would happen, and rather this would definitely be a scenario, let's say you and your friend are arguing over something that happened on a smart contract and you are supposed to receive compensation, but you did not because for some reason your friend ended up knocking you out of the way and made sure that they ended up getting more money. However, you find out that your friend is actually friends with Vitalik Buterin's sister. I don't know if he has a sister. And one of her friends is actually on the cryptocurrency Supreme Court. And you find out that other people who were also on the court have had dinner with your friend before. They went to school with them. They actually known them for a number of years, and he seems like a pretty okay guy. He's gone to a couple of conventions, and he's a really popular face within the cryptocurrency space. You know that you're not lying, but who do you think is going to get favor in this ruling? Humans have bias and always will in some sort of way. That's just the way that we are structured. This is the most ridiculous thing that I have ever heard in my entire life. If you actually look into the way that a large number of high figure cryptocurrency personalities actually are, the things that they say, the things that they believe in, you would throw this right out the window nearly immediately, because there are a number of people within the cryptocurrency space who are special. And the idea that you think that this proposal isn't made because this person was like, we need justice. People propose things because they think that they're rich enough and powerful enough to be able to announce these things out loud and that other people will go along with them. That's how money works. When you announce something like this, it's because this person probably wants to be at the top of the pyramid when it comes to an Ethereum Supreme Court. Think of why people say things out loud, why they structure things in a certain way. I would go so far as to assume this person is like, hey, let's make this thing and I'll be, the one right in the middle. We get 6 other people and that's the Supreme Court. What if there's a dispute that would rule not in their favor of the actual Supreme Court? There's something going on and it will deal with taking away money from the people in the actual Ethereum Supreme Court because they should, in this case, lose money. For whatever the reason might be, whatever the scenario might be, the person who's fighting against them is in the right. You guys messed with the protocol. You did X, Y, and Z. You should have half of your money taken away. Do you think the Supreme Court would vote against themselves? This was very popular news. I think a lot of times we live in a world where people... I'm going to rephrase that. We live in a world where people assume that because you have money that you're intelligent. They assume that the amount of power that you have equates to how much extra power that you should have. So when people make proposals for changes or other things within the cryptocurrency or the world ecosystem, people tend to simply go, well, he has money, he's smart, that's how he got there, and therefore this should definitely actually be a thing. There should not, under any circumstances, ever be a centralization of power like this. There should never be something like this within any place within the cryptocurrency space. Even them showing the other images of decentralized exchanges in this actual framework are nonsensical. How many times have me, you, I, us, we gone over the fact that every single decentralized exchange that has collapsed, fallen apart, had a rug pull. They were run by 3 to 5 different people. They gave out the product and said, this is definitely decentralized. It is, it's the greatest thing in cryptocurrency space. The SEC came a knocking on their door and they shut down. You cannot shut down Bitcoin because it is all over the world. You can shut down a decentralized exchange, wink, that only has 3 to 5 people running it. If you have a hierarchical system that allows 25 people to be at the center of the rulings for hundreds of thousands of millions of soon to be a billion people, that is a recipe for disaster. If you give these people power on chain, what's to stop them from keeping that power for the rest of their lives? What happens when WHEN, people start looking through it? There's always those people on Twitter. There's always those, people who scour through things and they figure out that 3 of the rulings were wrong. They should not have happened. The people in the Ethereum Supreme Court were wrong and were corrupt. Do they swap themselves out? Does the community get to revote in new Supreme Court people? Or is it the people in this pyramid right here? The people who run the decentralized, wink, cryptocurrency exchanges who all know each other. For those of you who don't know, the vast majority of people in crypto know each other. Not like, oh, I've seen him before. No, like they are friends. They hang out together. And some of them have even split apart to simply make different protocols to make extra money from other chains and extra fees and other stable coins and stuff like that. Who's going to back you up in this pyramid? Your 25 friends or the billion people who know that you're corrupt? Who can change the structure? Well, I'm sorry. We already have all these things on chain. We can't reorganize. That was an issue years ago when it came to EOS. When EOS first launched, the rumors were that apparently everyone would be able to run a node, would be able to validate transactions. When they launched, we found out that there were 21 validators, period. There were no more validators. You could not be a validator. News began to run about that to become a validator, you had to have tons of EOS tokens, millions of EOS tokens. It then led to the news that people who were validating on the EOS network, validating transactions, were making money for validating transactions, as is usually the case. However, it was the people who had the most money to be able to push other people out of the network to actually become one of the 21 validators. What happened to the other hundreds of millions of people who were going to be able to validate? When there were proposals happening on the network, it was from the 21 validators. They were the people who were able to make decisions. Humans are corrupt by nature. If you get a chance, watch any documentary about humanity, from thousands of years ago, from political corruption to jealousy, the way that people worked, and simply in your mind, give them a laptop, give them a smartphone, give them running water and showers. It's the exact same thing. There have been a lot of proposals over the years to centralize cryptocurrency structures. A lot of them do not make it, but a lot of them have become popular. This is something that should not be in any way. The entire point of crypto, the entire point of decentralization, the entire point of talking about 1 billion people being in this market is that we do not need the old system. Satoshi Nakamoto created a system, a blockchain that allows us to trust each other because we can see the trust directly happening on the chain as blocks are being produced. The idea of going back, this is similar to someone saying we need an SEC on chain as well. We need a group of 9 people who will decide which coins can and can't be put on the blockchain. Anyway, that's someone has proposed the worst thing I have ever heard. We do not need to go backwards. We are slowly moving forward into a future that could be good for billions of people on the planet, that will allow them to have access to a fair and open system. When you have a Supreme Court, you begin to have normal courts. You begin to have people looking on chain and having different protocols that say who can and who can't lock up funds, who can and who can't say who can move money around on chain. If the Ethereum Supreme Court decides that an address is invalid or that something's wrong with it, and they're in the wrong and the other person is in the right, and they lock up their funds, they lock up this person's smart contract who has $15 million inside of it, should we just allow that? I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all look into decentralization and what it actually means. I hope more people understand it, because there are many players within the space who are trying to centralize their power, and that is not something that should ever happen on chains. I do continue to hope that all these decentralized platforms collapse, the ones that truly are not decentralized. I want decentralized exchanges that have tens of thousands of nodes around the world that allow you one day on your smartphone to be in control with tens of thousands of other people to vote on new protocols and new things happening on the chain. We're all capable of, like, this is all possible. We have the technology for this. It's just a matter of people squeezing their way into the market, trying to figure out how to control it, throwing the word decentralized on it, and then when it ends up collapsing, they go, uh-oh, I didn't know that. Anyway, I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be, I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See